Hello all. We're told one thing over and over. You can't possibly destroy ISIS while Assad is still in power. People are too angry. For years he's massacred people, almost exclusively Sunni, and you'll never be able to convince the Syrians to turn on ISIS and Al-Nusrah before they know they are safe from genocidal Assad. You know what? There's actually some truth to this. Sunnis really never will submit to a government that has carried out a genocidal policy against them. This is a persuasive argument, but it leaves something out. Many Sunnis do look to ISIS as their only protection from a genocidal regime, but it's not Assad's regime. ISIS is not a Syrian organization. It is an Iraqi one. It's gone through multiple rebrandings, but it's the same nasty outfit that Musab al-Zarqawi put together well over a decade ago. It's not the genocidal policy of the Syrian government that gives ISIS its power. It's the genocidal policy of the Iraqi government. That government has the full support of the United States, and it is carrying out exactly the same policy of anti-Sunni ethnic cleansing that the Assad government is carrying out in rebel-controlled areas. Except the Iraqi program of genocide is much, much more effective, and it's on a much broader scale. The world media rightly points to the horror of Assad's barrel bombs. What they fail to point out, however, is that these are weapons of weakness. Assad is a member of a small minority. If he wants to still have a country, he needs Sunnis. You can't really call his policy genocidal. In fact, across all of Iraq and Syria, the region controlled by Assad is the only area left where people share power across sectarian lines in a meaningful way. This isn't because Assad is virtuous. It's because he can't run a country with just his own people. There just aren't enough Alawites. Assad is desperately weak. With the weight of Turkey, the United States, the Gulf states, and international jihadism bearing down on him, he has no choice but to be savagely, publicly, and ineffectively brutal. A regime that is reduced to throwing $200 worth of explosives and rebar into a barrel and dropping it on its people is evil. But it's also pitifully weak. The Iraqi program of genocide is much quieter, and it's also much more effective. The U.S. press will occasionally run a good piece on this policy, but there are no headlines. The Iraqi government is run by the Shia majority in Iraq, and it has the full power of the U.S. military-industrial complex behind it. The multi-billion-dollar Iraqi military we paid for collapsed in June of 2014. It is making a bit of a comeback, but many of its weapons have been given to effective but murderous Shia militias. Some attention is paid when these folks commit a mass killing against Sunnis, but not much. The quiet, family-by-family work that these death squads do in mixed neighborhoods in Baghdad isn't as loud as a barrel bomb, but it's much, much more effective. On a larger scale, the Sunni cities like Fallujah and Ramadi have been repeatedly devastated, first by U.S. soldiers, and now by U.S. weapons. These U.S. weapons cost tens of millions of dollars, not $200. We rightly hear a lot about the sufferings of the population in the jihadist-controlled sections of Aleppo, a Syrian city. The same news sources expect us to celebrate when the populations of ISIS-controlled cities in Iraq are similarly brutalized. Unlike Assad, the Iraqi government doesn't need the Sunnis to have a country, and they've stopped trying. Yet the U.S. government continues to insist on Iraqi unity. We complain about the Iraqi government, but we continue to give it a blank check. If I were a Sunni living in Iraq, I'd probably support ISIS too. I wouldn't have any other choice. The ISIS generation of Zarqawi's institution may fall in the next year or so, but as long as the Iraqi government's current policy continues, it will rise again. We're expected to cheer as Baghdad takes back Fallujah for the umpteenth time since 2003. This is ridiculous. If we continue to insist on Iraqi unity, we'll almost certainly see another siege of Fallujah or Ramadi in the next decade. This mess will continue, and it will continue to prevent a solution in Syria, regardless of what happens to Assad. My feeling is that the answer in Syria will eventually be what it already obviously is in Iraq. Partition. Pure and simple. Unity may still just be possible in Syria, But it won't be if the conflict drags on as long as it has in Iraq, which is very, very possible. Our insistence on the continued unity of Iraq is the main reason that conflict continues in both countries. The Western media's insistence on treating Iraq and Syria as two different conflicts makes no sense at all. ISIS is a psychotic death cult nobody with a real choice would choose to live under. A Syria ceasefire earlier this year demonstrated that protests against Syrian jihadists start the second the shooting stops. If the US government would simply concede that Iraqi partition is an option, ISIS and the Syrian jihadists would instantly become much, much weaker. Saner, less desperate Sunni leadership could begin to emerge once again. Conceding the possibility of partition in Iraq would be the beginning of a process, not the end. Fighting would continue, and ethnic cleansing would continue as well. But if what they keep telling us is true, that ISIS will never be defeated while Assad is still in power, then it is doubly true that ISIS will never be defeated as long as we are following Assad's policy in Iraq. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. And if you'd like to help me make more videos like this one, please click on the Patreon link here to find out how.